to another episode of Gov Tech Today. I'm Russell Lowery.
And I'm Jen Saha.
And together we try and bridge the gap between .com and .gov. I think today's episode we're going to talk about one of the most important things in Gov Tech, which is sort of that initial meeting between a vendor and a state agency. People work really hard to get those meetings, and I've sat through a lot of corporate sales enablement meetings, and I have decades of experience in government where I've taken some of those meetings, and I don't think there's a bigger gap sort of in what people are saying and what people want in those meetings. So I just thought it'd be an interesting conversation to have about in your mind, what does a good initial meeting look like?
I mean, I think you know when it happens, right? It's one of those things where, like, if you walk out of a meeting and you're like, man, I nailed that. And like, there's no better feeling in the world for someone in the industry that's like, yes, that was incredible. But I see misses all the time. You're right, where I'm like, that was a total whiff. Like, what did we do wrong? Where should we have started differently? Because those happen a lot too.
Okay, so I'll share one big whiff that I had in recent history, but the meeting started out on a bad footing from the start. I had a complaint from one department about another department. And that was the initial trigger I used to get the meeting. Mm-hmm. So I let them know that this department had a complaint, and could we meet to discuss it? Man, it's hard to imagine a more defensive structure.
Totally.
I get everybody in the room. I'm excited when I look at the meeting invite. This is going to be great. Everyone super defensive. Wanting what they wanted was to probe the source of the complaints and defend and prove why the complaints were not problematic. And I was not interested in detailing the who's and the whys and the specific complaints. I was looking at this as an opportunity to better understand some of their challenges and how I fix them, but that I'd approach them with a complaint. And honestly, I knew that because this was a high-level complaint from another department, that I would get a meeting.
Yep.
And I used that to get the meeting, and it was pretty useless in my estimation. There was no follow-up. There was no good vibe. It felt like a train wreck.
I mean, I think like the premise of the meeting is really important.
Okay.
And so I've had clients come to me and say, like, we want to meet and greet with these, this department. And no. We want a discovery session with this department. Also hard pass. Like, no, discovery sessions are dead.
So explain that a little bit, because for our .gov people may not be entirely familiar with the corporate training on what a discovery session is. So why don't you explain for them what that is?
Discovery session in like business to business would be like, let me come in and figure out what your problems are. Let me come in and listen to you. And like, it's not dead in the respect of you should still do this. Actually, Director CIO Bailey Kremens said this, like, I would love it if someone just listened for part of our meeting, right? And I think that is also sort of an art that has been forgotten too. But the discovery session is like, tell me what your budget is. Tell me what your tech stack is. Tell me what your priorities are. Tell me what your strategies are. And guess what? Like, working in the public sector, all of that's online. Like, all of that is publicly available information. So your discovery session should be done before you ever walk into that room.
At that base level discovery. So you're not saying discovery is wrong. When we listen to Leanna Bailey Kremens, she says listen. So we're not saying discovery is wrong. It's just much different than what you might typically think in a B2B session.
Yeah, it's a little deeper than, I haven't done any homework. I haven't even Googled your department. Tell me about yourself. Like, that is dead.
Right.
And frankly, it should be.
Okay.
Because we can do our homework. I can figure out where you've worked, how long you've worked there. I can figure out what your family is like, right? What you value. But sort of that preliminary laying the groundwork before any meeting, like you should do that before.
So you should just run through. We don't have to create a checklist or anything exactly, but prior to a good discovery meeting, you should understand the department's tech stack. You should understand their strategic plan document. You should understand their budgeted tech priority spend. You should know a little bit about their structure, who the CTO is, who the
I want an org
information chart.
I want bios of people I'm meeting with. I want to have done a news search and see what they're facing publicly and politically. If they've had any huge projects that have been either successful or failures over the years, I want to know about that. And frankly, if you're good on the government side, you've done the same research about a company. I always kind of chuckle, like, references, company, give me some references. They're going to give you their best references. Like, they're not going to give you someone that's like, this was an epic failure.
Right.
And so I'm like, references are dead. Like, I can figure out more about a company with a solid internet search than any reference is going to give me, because an internet search will give you the whole history, the whole picture, not just the good rosy that some vendor is going to come in and present to me as a government.
So I've done a much deeper prep for a government discovery meeting. Again, in my mind, we're talking about a first meeting, not somebody you've got a relationship with.
Right.
We know how to talk to our friends.
Yeah.
That part's easy. I'm looking for a new relationship here. So I've done this sort of research. I've gotten the tech stack and I know that you do this. I do it too. But we didn't just Google it. We looked at scappers. We looked at what their procurement history was.
History. I look at some of the contracts. I, dig into project successes. What do they have in PAL, right? What's going through the process of approvals? Have they been in legislative committees?
Right.
Let's look at those agendas and the staff analyses on big initiatives that they're working on.
So a good meeting from our .gov side, you should be able to diagnose whether or not it's likely to be a good meeting early in the process, because the .com people should have obviously done their homework. They're not coming in completely cold, asking base level questions that would have been obvious to anybody who put any kind of effort into it. Okay.
So just this week, I had a great example of this. I have a CEO of a client coming into town from overseas. And he's like, hey, I would love to meet with the team at this department. Yep, sure. Let me shoot off an email. I got the best response ever from the department. They were like, I'm not really interested in meeting with the CEO. I would love to meet with a technical team and really dig into the solution. And what that tells me is they did their homework too.
Right.
Like, they're not interested in a meet and greet. CEOs are great. What I wanted to reply and tell them is like, this CEO is pretty technical. Like, this will be a really good meeting. He is more than willing to get into the weeds with you. But I love that they're like, we're not for ceremonial meetings either.
I've heard this, and I would never push back to the person that's saying it, but they do. We heard this from when you had Steve Gordon on, and we had a great conversation, but he said, if you're coming to DMV, you better be technical, because we're technical, and the meeting will end abruptly if you can't tell me something I don't know.
Yeah.
So super important. But I want to be in defense of some of those sales guys who are not super technical, but are serving as that bridge between. Oftentimes, the salesperson is navigating what does it take to actually get you the discounts, to meet your pricing, to coordinate solutions and teams, and they need to understand everything that's going on.
Oh, yeah.
In order, they're not trying to sell you something you don't need or shove you into a number, but sometimes their role is underappreciated.
Oh, absolutely. Like it's a very vital function in the meeting. It's all about like knowing your audience, right? So if they're bringing their technical guys, I should also probably bring my technical guys. So it's balancing and mirroring your client, right? Who you're going in to meet with. Are you going in to meet with someone who's technical, or are you going in to meet with the business leader? And if it's the business leader, that CEO may be totally appropriate, or your sales lead may be totally appropriate. But if it's a bunch of engineers, which is who answered this email to me, it's like, yeah, don't worry. Like, we'll get you an engineer in the meeting, but let's make it productive for everybody.
I call it, I don't want to get out technicaled in the meeting. So I will always bring a technical person. I try and bring a technical person with me to each of those meetings. So from that discovery process, we've got the appropriate background, we've got the appropriate people in the meeting to match that up. Again, this is that first meeting. What is it we're trying to accomplish? What's a great engagement look like in your mind?
I mean, I'm going to go back again to what Director Bailey Cremens said. It's like, you should also do a lot of listening in these meetings. So lay out what you see from your side. Lay out the
homework that you've done. Lay
out your homework. Demonstrate that you have a cursory knowledge of what their challenges are.
You're not presenting as an expert because you've done that, but Here's what I'm seeing. Here's what I'm seeing.
What are you seeing? Like, how can I help you? Is how I love to tee it up. Like, what can we do to help you here? And be listening, like ears open listening. And frankly, if it's a meeting and you walk out saying, there's not an opportunity here, but even that is a win to me, because you've demonstrated to those people that you're not going to take advantage of them. You're not just in there trying to sell them something. You're a good partner, echoing something that Director Gordon told us. And you're there when there is an opportunity, which means they can trust that you're just not going to cram something down their throat because you need the sale.
One of the things I'm always trying to get is what is the actual pain point? So I've got the strategic document, I've got the PAL process, I saw what they got beat up in committee on, but then there's organizational pressure. Where is that? What is if I'm the CISO, what is my CTO on me? About like what that it may not show up anywhere, but that's the pain point.
Right. So, it's an interesting one. I met with a CIO a few weeks ago, and it was like, here's what I'm seeing. Here are the challenges that I'm seeing. Like, tell me what I'm missing and where there's more. And this CIO said to me, like, I really am struggling with my team internally. But for these walls only, and like this can't ever go anywhere, but I'm struggling with like having the right people in the right jobs internally. And I'm like, man, that's a huge challenge. And frankly, that's not something some vendor is going to help them fix, right? None of my clients can sell you something that will help you fix that. But it was sort of like, all right, have you thought about this? Or have you thought about that? How often are you guys in person? Sort of just like coaching them on organizational effectiveness outside of trying to sell them anything, really. Right. It was like, man, how can I help you solve your problems that don't even have anything to do with making me a sale at the end of the day? And I think that's really important too. Like, you have to personalize these people. Right. They are people. They're like all of us. It's like, what are your plans? Like, what's your 5-year plan, CIO? What do you want to do after this?
So outside of the immediate like headaches of the day-to-day job, you're trying to make that personal connection. You're treat talking them about like a person, career,
right? Treat them like a person, just like we treat each other. Like, Russell, how's the family? How are you? Do you have travel plans this summer? What are you doing? Like those kind of questions.
And it's different. It took me, we'd probably been recording this podcast for 6 months before I actually cared about your kids in your life. So if I asked, for me, if I ask that in sort of initial meeting, it feels sort of artificial. But for you,
I think I asked you about your kids like the
the
second
second
time
time
we
we
met.
met,
I was like,
right.
do you have kids?
Right, exactly.
What does your wife do?
Right.
Like, what do you like to do for fun?
For me, I'm project based. Let's get this thing done. Let's
Totally.
kill and
You're
eat.
all business, and I love that about you.
But it's not, and it doesn't stay that way. And neither approach is necessarily wrong. But you're saying there's an authenticity to that engagement.
Yeah.
You want
Just
to
personalize it, like make it about the people that you're meeting with as much, if not more, than what you guys are talking about.
I had a meeting this week with a senior executives at an important agency, and I began the meeting with thanking them for their public service. I knew it. I've been on that side of the equation. I understood deeply the work that they do and how hard it is. And they didn't know me from Adam, and I began with maybe a profuse thank you.
Yeah.
I saw the eye roll over the Zoom. Like it may have come across as the biggest suck up in the world.
Did you still see the eye roll when you told them, like, I've been where you are?
That's when it changed.
Yep.
I started with the thank you and I got the eye roll. And rather than just move past the eye roll, I went into my own history and I know where you're coming from. And so I know some of those pressures, and it changed, and it served to deepen the relationship. And I figure when they get to know me, they may not know it, but my sincere appreciation for public service is real.
Yep.
So for me, I feel comfortable in that environment. I know it's not sucking up, and I know maybe they hear it all the time, or maybe they never hear it. I took lots of meetings and hardly ever heard it. No one's saying thank you for that stuff.
Well, and it has to be authentic. I was meeting with the entire team of one of my clients, a fairly good sized team. And one of the more junior analysts in there said, like, you guys always say that we should be really friendly with our clients and ask them personal questions and stuff. But like, when do we do that, and how do we do that? And
a little clarification when you talk about clients. Were you talking about the
government
.gov?
clients,
Okay,
right?
sorry.
Like,
okay.
You want us to build relationships with our clients, but like, how do we do that in a natural way? I'm like, well, how do you do that in a natural way with anybody you meet? I went to a neighborhood block party, and I'm like, what do you do for a living? Like, what they do for a living, so let's skip that. But like, what did you do for a living?
How'd you get into this?
Yeah, we've already done our homework, so we probably already know where they worked and maybe where they went to school and that kind of thing. But like, just try to learn about them as people outside of their jobs, because we all have lives outside of our jobs. And some of that stuff is super enlightening. Like, wow, did you know this person is a black belt? Did you know our state CIO is a black belt? No, I had no idea. But isn't that really cool?
Right.
Like, learning that about her. And she's one of the best at this. I have not run into her and had a conversation with her where she hasn't been like, how are the girls? How's Matt? You guys, what are you doing this summer? Are you holding up? Like, and it's so great because it's like, yeah, we're really good. How's art? How's the family? What are you guys working on? Like, I mean, that is how you develop these relationships where you are partners.
So when you bring a business solution or you make a recommendation, there's a level of relationship and trust that facilitates the business, but it's not.
Right.
It's who you are. It's based on who you are as a human being. Not
they know who you
solution.
are as a human being. And you heard it from her on this podcast. I've known you forever.
Right.
You're good people.
Right.
Like, establishing that trust and that relationship with your clients, whoever they are, is super vital to success, prolonged success in this industry.
So you want to have done your homework. You want to make sure you're probing on their specific pain points and checking your knowledge and refining that based on those interactions.
And listening.
Listening to their responses, and then trying to connect on a personal level to who they are as people and building a level of trust. So that what's the conclusion to this good intro meeting that we've done our work for? We've had these good back and forth. We've listened. We've demonstrated our homework. We've made a personal connection. So that
I'm a huge fan of action items at the end of every meeting, because so many meetings, so many conferences, so many vendor things, it's like, all right, what happened afterwards? And it's like crickets. And you're like, what do you mean what happened afterwards? And I'm like, where was the follow-up? Like, I want to walk out of that meeting having our next meeting, if not calendared, at least like time frame of when we know what's going to happen and who we're supposed to meet with. I love a delegation. I tell all of my CIOs, like, I don't need your time. I just need your knowledge of where we should be working in your organization. I am more than happy to meet with the right people to help with this problem. It doesn't have to be you. I love meeting with you. Don't get me wrong. Like, I would love it if you were in every single one of my meetings, but your time is very valuable, and I really respect that. And I just need to know, point me in the right direction, and like, I will go there. So what is the follow-up from our meeting? No one's walking out of a first meeting with a PO. Like, it doesn't happen. So like, who should we be meeting with to keep this moving? Where do you want to point me to keep things going, to further the discussions, to get with your technical teams if they aren't in the room the first time? And having that follow-up, knowing where you're going next as a vendor is super important.
Well, thank you for sharing your expertise. I hope both of our .com and .gov audience members get something out of it.
Yeah.